Okay, so we actually don't have the director from the first film. They're actually in Taipei doing the performance. But we have directors from the 4 films from second to the last. I guess maybe I'll start first and foremost, thank you so much for sharing the film with us. And we can just start with perhaps just sharing what inspired you to make the film. And please, this is open to anyone to start, so don't feel so pressured.
I guess I'll start first. So once again, thank you everyone for watching the film, all the 5 films. So once again, I'm the director of Spelling Test. So inspiration, I guess, right? This is based on my personal experience when I was in my, during standard 4 to standard 6, where, I have encountered issues with, me myself, I'm also really bad at Malay. So I just like in the film, really hard to recognize the Malay spelling, sometimes mix it up with English. And my teacher doesn't really like it, so a lot of times like I will get queued up to like spell the word, and then sometimes I got it wrong, and then I'll like stand up, and then sometimes I'll get instructed to sit outside the corridor and do the the correction. Yeah, so it's kind of what really triggers me, but another thing I kind of want to point out a little bit is inside the film that I think the reason why I really want to tell this story is the moment when the government officer came and I sit behind, right, and then I noticed that like I was supposed to get caught on act like I didn't bring the textbook, right, but my teacher didn't like expose me, so it drives me to think like why would she behave like that. Because like I was like, oh, okay, is it just me who face this sense of shame, or it's not just me, or even the adults, even the teacher, like she doesn't want to get exposed, so she chose to stay silent. So that brings me to this question of like who's the victim, like is it just me as the kid, or is it everyone is facing it under this system? So then it drives me forward to really to see what actually happens, like in this education system, like how do each, the kids, the adults, how do they behave under this system? That's something that I really want to explore. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Yeah. Maybe you want to answer? It feels so similar.
Okay. Yeah, I can relate to that film. I've been through that. But it was a science test for me. Okay, so I'm the writer-director for WASH. Similar as Spelling Test, it's based on my own personal experience serving in National Service Camp when I was 18 years old. So a little bit of context about the film. So in Malaysia, when you turn 18, no matter you are male or female, you will get randomly picked by the government to participate in this military program for 3 months. So first day of the camp, I remember that our teacher told us no matter you are Malay, Chinese or Indian, you will need to wash the sanitary pads before you disposing the pad. Because the camp is located at this rural area, if you don't wash it, the ghosts will come and disturb us. So this is the context of the film. And then what inspired me to write this film was because I wrote this film during the pandemic. During the pandemic, our government was not that stable. We changed our cabinet and prime minister, and to me it's ridiculous. Like why they didn't handle cabinet or our system well. To me it's like they're like playing games, and we as a citizens who are suffering because of this. And so I related to this similar feeling with that experience that happened 10 years ago. To me, washing the sanitary pads was ridiculous. Because it was a traumatic experience to me. So I started to explore, why I have this kind of feelings, why I'm feeling not so comfortable. So I wrote this based on the feeling of anger. So while I was developing the script and then going through the rehearsals with the cast, and then while working on the edit, I realized that, actually it opens so many perspectives for me to look at this particular traumatic incident. I got to understand where are all these people coming from, including the Malays, including the Indians, and including our authorities. So yeah, I guess that's why I made this film. Yeah.
Thank you. I guess for text, find that just thinking about what Miki said about ridicule and how there's this imposing idea of like, okay, Filipinos are supposed to be poor, so yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it actually started from a personal story. I was a childhood singer, so I was auditioning for many different TV shows. But I felt that was too melodramatic, so we had to adjust the script. And then came this idea, because in the Philippines, if you don't know, there's a Big Brother franchise, but the most prominent feature of our Big Brother is that there's a voice on television that you don't actually see. It's just a voice actor telling those people, those housemates, what to do. It's a really true story in the Philippines. And Filipinos really eat this up. And so we felt that this is really a great way for us to tell something about our political system right now. I don't know, I see many similarities between our entertainment system and our political system. In the way that in the Philippines, like, we just came from a Duterte administration who was close to a dictator. And then we have a Marcos president right now, the famous dictator from the Philippines. So I wanted to say something about the state of our country, but in a comedic and absurd sense. So thus text find that.
And Palita, like, I guess yours is about more this longing and yearning, and this, it's not as politically authoritative voice, but maybe you can talk about more your inspiration of making the work.
Okay, for me, for the Mandam Neon, it would be a little bit short, but I would say that the inspiration, it comes from like the lasting effect from authoritarian political culture in Thailand, and which has still like remain until this day. And it's like that culture has become like deeply embedded in our country, I mean Thailand, and for the over time it's passed down from generation to generation. So I have to say some people may accept them and let it be like a part of our life. And so the point is I think I see it culture, that culture be a part of our ordinary routine life, but in the reality it shouldn't. Yes, that's it.
Thank you. All right, let's move away from some of the trauma and talk about your process of working with actors, actually, because all of you have kind of a different way of working. I mean, Kent, I was interested to know how much of improvisation is there between you and the actress. And Wong, I'm interested to know more about what was it like for you to direct a different generation and how to kind of manage that dynamics. And Palita, like working with non-actors and actors on set. And Miki to kind of then figure out this racial tensions and dynamic on set, working with your actors. anyone can start. Parita, you want to go first? Okay.
Okay, for me, I have to say that the two main characters, a soldier and a doctor, they have been like working together before, so it's helped me a lot that they can like much and easy to work with them. And if I remember correctly, we don't have time to talk to each other too much because she and he was a bit busy, but the thing that we talk is like the inside of the character, the background, like what happened in the story, and yeah, and she and he was like understood the character perfectly. And for the villager, is mean like non-professional. I just told him like how, what are you doing, what you gonna do, and yeah, example the people who came to see the doctor, I told it what happened to you and what you should say in the dialogue, and it's had a little bit and I changed her words or yeah, and she told me that when I changed her words are a little bit hissing, and she told me that when I go to the doctor I say like this, so okay, I say with her like okay, so you will go on with that. So it's like she also helped me because it like it's been more natural. Yes, and for the father of the soldier that's leaving, he is like a method acting because even though we are not shooting or on the set, he is still sleeping on his wheelchair. Yes, like because I think so the part is the difference on for the professional actor and non-actor is the way of communication. Yes.
Does that work with you? I mean, she's an actress, right? Like, but did you have a lot of improvisation on set?
Jade's here. Actually, fun fact, I didn't like her previous work, but my producer liked her eyes. She saw something there. And yeah, fun fact again, during our first rehearsals, I still didn't like her performance. I said it was too dramatic for my film. And so what I did was to show her some works that Tex Pindan was inspired. And I told her, oh, this is the kind of performance I want to see from you. Magically, she came to set very prepared. She came as a different person and very subtle, I think, in terms of performance, rather than being too melodramatic or like too theatery, because she has a background in theater. Yeah, she's a theater student. So there's a tendency for them to like overact things, right? Because theater. In terms of the question about improvisation, I think this is a very local film, and the part of the Philippines where we are and where we shot is there's this culture of humor. I think it's inherently in our films that it's dark, it's humorous, but it's all a thing that it's only us who can perfectly understand their humor. So it's something like that. And so what we did on set was to actually make that part of the culture, I think, the humor. And so nothing was set in stone in the script. A lot of improvisations in terms of the process in filmmaking. Like for example, the dance sequence was a lot of improvisation. Like the way she danced, I think, was like a collective, what do you call this? A collaborative idea of the entire crew. So maybe that fun that we had on the set was part of the reason of why we were able to improvise a lot of things and play with our humor. So yeah.
Were you going through like different TikTok videos and be like, maybe do this video?
I don't think so. But the Budot's dance, that was, I don't know, it's a very niche kind of dance in the Philippines, and it's funny to us It's funny to a lot of Filipinos, and so that was the main inspiration behind the dance. It's not actually TikTok, but maybe TikTok also like was inspired from that little niche culture. So yeah.
Thank you. You wanna go? Oh?
Yeah, sure. So the question was how do I, in terms of the dynamics when working with the.
Yeah, I'm interested because this is your student film as well, right?
Yes.
And like, she's those, you know, how do you manage this kind of generational dynamic? For you to also, she's also a very known actress. So I was also kind of interested to know what was that like for you.
Okay, I think I'll share my working process with Angeline Tan. So for your context, Angeline Tan is a very renowned actress in Malaysia. I also don't know how did I get her, but yeah. But working with her actually is quite interesting because I got introduced to her through my lecture suggestion, and then she saw the script and she likes it. And something to share regarding her character building. As you saw inside the film, Miss Yan is a Chinese Muslim. Initially, inside the script, it was a Chinese. That was suggested by Angeline because she felt that if positioning her in Chinese Muslim, it provides a perspective of her in between Chinese and being Malay. Like, you know, her ethnicity as a Chinese, and she acknowledged the importance of Malay language, and she positioned herself as educators, and I find it's a really interesting add-on in a cultural context from the film. Yeah, and in terms of improvisation, actually a lot, because as you see in the scenes, like when we do the script stage, and she'll go through and she's like, okay, maybe I would do it differently in certain way, and she'll give some suggestions like can't really recall any really specific, but it's quite different when I execute the scene. So it's not really like from lines to lines, script to script. It's more like this scene roughly what we will do, how we turn out, and how do they play around with it. And then for the kid actors, they are all non-professionals, and then okay, something I want to speak about them is that like kids nowadays, they behave really differently compared to even my generation. Like they play Roblox, and then that's something that I so it really takes time for me to like really get to know who they are, what are things that they are interested in, and I really need to spend time with them, like knowing what are the things that they will talk about, they'll joke around, and then I improvise based on something that I experienced as a kid, and how do we translate to them and make it organically. And by the way, the female prefect, that really annoying female prefect, and the side character with glasses, they're actually sisters and brothers. So so that's how I play around with they are familiar with each other, and for the main character, they initially don't know each other, they are from same school, but I just get them to hang out and like see what they are actually, how do they play around each other, and I join in, like I think I still owe them a mobile game section. Yeah. So I think it's about understanding kids, how do they think, and I also learn from them. Like then I understand, like kids being kids, sometimes they don't actually think a lot. They just have questions like, why things like this, why things like that, and I just play around with it.
Oh my god. Right. Okay. Same as spelling test. Only the teacher is the professional actress in Malaysia, and the girls, they are all non-professional actors. And I think me myself, I learned a lot from all of them. I've shared some bits, especially from the teacher's character, because I was so nervous before I pitched or even shared the idea to her, because as you can see, when you watch a film, you feel like, this teacher is oppressing the girls and pressuring the girls, and what is the standpoint or what is the perspective of the teacher? Like, because me myself, I don't want to portray a bad character in the film, because I think every individual has their own standpoint. So we discussed together with this particular actress, the teacher character, and she shared to me that to her, she doesn't feel like she's an evil character because based on the script, she understands that she's from the military background and she's a Malay herself, and with the cultural and the military background, when possession happened, this is the best that she can do to protect all the girls. And when I listened to this statement, I felt so secure in a way that it also provides me an insight what was my teacher thinking back then in 10 years ago. So that really opened up my perspective at the very first place during the casting. So that's how we develop our process. And then with all the girls in the film, that because they are non-professional actors and then they are not familiar with the national service, because military program, there is no military program anymore in our country. They are discussing to reintroduce a program next year, but we don't know if it's true. I hope if they have, please abolish the rules of washing the sanitary pads. It's really traumatic. Okay, so because in Malaysia, races staying under the same roof is rarely to be seen. So all these girls, they are around 16 years old. They are the TikTok generation. At first, I find it hard to talk to them as well. So I forced myself to understand what is TikTok. And then first, okay, this is how I my first action to understand what are they thinking about, and then we just play around basically. Yeah, we put them under the same roof. We send them to the camp, the actual military camp, for three days, and then to go through the foot drill training, all the obstacles training, which is not seen in the film, so that to train their chemistry as a group. But to build that chemistry, it takes time. So the whole workshop took around 2 months. Every week we will meet up to we jog together, and then we cook together, and then we dance together. I look at them dance, I didn't dance, okay? And then just build that as so it's really beautiful to see in a way I feel like the message of the film is being built outside of the film. I see how they get really close to each other between the races, including with the teacher. So it really touched my heart, like seeing how this being transcended, trauma has been transcended into another meaningful process. It really meant so much to me, and I felt that that's the importance of filmmaking. It's not about the outcome, but also the process. And then another thing that I can share is how we filmed the toilet scene, because it's really hard to the non-professional actors as well. We did plan our shots ahead before we shoot that, but when we did our test shoot and pieced it together, to me I feel like it's not organic at all. They are acting for the camera, shot by shot. So we break the rules, and then me and my DOP, we just say that why not we do it in one take, the whole toilet scene, from the argument to her opening the pads to them washing the toilet and sanitary pads until they finish their job. So we follow character. Each character we give them 2 takes. So we took 7 takes from the Chinese perspective, from the Malay perspective, from the Indian, and also from the teacher. And then each take took around 24 minutes. So it's 7 takes of 24 minutes, and then we piece it together. And it felt really organic to me, because they just react to what they have seen or they have heard in the toilet. They wouldn't need to react to the camera or the instructions. Yeah, so that's the process of making that. Yeah.
The filmmaking process became a healing space also. Okay, I think I can open up to the floor if anybody. Great. Let's go. There's one all the way to the top there. The mic will. Yeah. Thank you.
Hi, just for the directors or all the directors, just firstly for the director of Wash, why black and white? Is it due to the graphic nature of the story that you want to portray, or is it mainly due to some symbolic reasons that you film it in black and white? And also any political elements that you want to tease out, other than the fact that you mentioned that there is quite the silliness of the political landscape in Malaysia, right? So when we talk about washing, could there be other elements you want to portray, like multiculturalism, sanitization, or certain elements, corruption, for example? Yeah. For the director of the spelling test, sorry to know that it's autobiographical, where I can feel your pain. Just a very quick question that is it just you want to portray the experience of students in general in Malaysia, the struggle right before their examinations, or is mainly also about the struggle of Malaysian Chinese students and their struggle with Bahasa Malaysia in general? For the director of the Filipino short film, you mentioned you want to portray the political landscape, right? And also just want to know whether poverty, porn, and the dramaturgical aspects of reality show, how are they linked to these political elements or political landscape that you want to portray? And last but not least, the directors of the last film, I just want to know whether you're trying to depict this idea of nature or nostalgia, because I noticed there's the trees and this very magical realism kind of frame that you want to portray. So I think I just want to try to understand a little better whether you do more portraying of the nature elements, or just from a nostalgic magical realism kind of elements in your film. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for your question. So first question, black and white. Why the film is in black and white at the first place? We planned it before we shoot it, so we intended to go for black and white. First of all, I want to focus on the dynamic between the characters, especially different races, so that people don't focus on the blood, because it's very easy to go into the genre of horror. And to me, I feel like if people watching this film, the first impression is the blood, the color of blood, and the texture of blood. To me, it's very pretentious. I want to focus on the dynamic between the characters, how they react on such subject matters. So to me, it's always about the character. And second reason is because I want to look at all these characters in equal. And in black and white, we only can see the dynamic range between between the black and white, and there is no skin color, the very big contrast of skin color. So that's two main reasons for it. And for your second questions, because when I experienced it 10 years ago, during the last scene, you can see that all the girls, they are drinking the water. I was when after we drank the water, the teacher actually told us that, you girls cannot tell anyone that you have experienced this, and please keep it to yourself. If I find out that this thing is spread out there, you need to bear the consequences. So it's like, after all this traumatic incident that she's trying to pressure, she asks us to keep quiet, and I feel like, that's very uncomfortable. It's like, your action, it's kind of like already asks us to follow the system, which is, because our country is an Islamic country, so most of the rules and regulation, we follow Muslim or Islamic system, no matter we like it or not. So if this action is keep on happening, to me it's like an action of washing all of us to be clean. So our culture has been washed away, our own very unique beliefs or values has been washed away. So what are we, like in Malaysia, in a multiracial country, what are we? So I have this question. So that's also part of the reason why I want to tell this story, because when conflicts happen in our country, it's not the fault of Malay, the fault of Chinese or Indian. To me, it's like when the system is trying to oppress one of us, in return, automatically we will oppress one another. So I have so many questions about our government system, how they handle stuff. So that's why I'm making this film. I'm not sure if I answer your question. Yeah, thank you.
There was one question, right? Sorry if I forgot, but it's like, is it about the depiction of Malaysian Chinese students or Malaysian students in general, right? Okay, so let me think about it. Okay, so of course, partly it's because what I experienced, and I recall some of the conversations I've had with some different people, like whether or not they came from international school or they went to SMK, which is our government school, where they are teaching language is mostly conversed in Malay, stuff like that. Like even for our Chinese ethnicity in Malaysia, most of us, like all of us have different experience. Like some of us, like we are prone of, we are used to Malay. Like just like my father inside the film, like he went to SMK, he doesn't have this issue, and I'm not trying to say that like Malaysian Chinese students in general they have this issue, but I just want to see that some of us face this issue, and I heard from some of my friends when I share this my experience with them, they'd be like, yeah, I have the same issue. Like we all have these questions of like because learning our Malay language is an essential in our Malaysia, and it kind of like also in a certain way depicts whether or not you can survive in Malaysian society. Like we always have this saying like, okay, if you fail Malay, you kind of like fail, because it's like it's a compulsory for you to like pass Malay subject and Sejarah subject. Otherwise, your other subjects are not, even though they are good or not, you're not being qualified. You cannot go into like certain universities in Malaysia. So I have this question, like then like for us who are not prone, that that Malay language is not our first language, when we go through this process, then then I don't know how to explain it, but it's like I have this question like why I essentially have to pass Malay, even though from as a Malaysian it feels like, okay, you have to learn Malay, you have to be good, but all of us have different backgrounds. Like we have vernacular schools, we have schools that use Chinese, use Tamil, use all our mother tongue, and not all of us have that experience of going through like getting use of Malay language. So I just kind of want to like show this language learning barrier kind of phenomenon. Yeah, I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
For the case of text find that, I think Filipinos generally are suckers for drama. So Philippine media tends to over-dramatize things. So I think the poverty porn aspect of the film is partly just because of the sensationalism of media. But the way we chose that particular narrative was because it was inspired by a friend's perspective. I told you, right, that I was a childhood singer, so I still have friends actually trying their luck in the industry, auditioning for different reality TV shows. And so I have this friend who's a singer, and he auditioned for Idol Philippines. It's like the American Idol franchise for the Philippines. And then it's weird because when he came into the audition room, he was bringing dried fish. And what I knew was that his mother was a fish vendor, not a dried fish vendor. But I was told that the producers actually told him to bring dried fish just because he was from the province. And it was, it was dramatic for TV. So it's very weird, absurd, and I think it's nice to play around that idea also on film. So that was partly the reason why. But I think generally for the Philippines really, if you're talking about the intersection between entertainment and politics, I think our entertainment system fills in the gaps of the political system, but it's not that enough. Like many Filipinos, you would see would audition, line up for these game shows every day just to get like 5,000 pesos in cash. I don't know how much that is. I think that's 100 Singaporean dollars, like for comparison purposes. So that meager amount of money, just because a lot of us don't get the basic necessities for everyday living. So I think that part is discussed by last year's entry, which is Primetime Mother by Sonny Colvento. If you happen to see that, it was discussed there. But here, that's it. That's a inspiration.
Okay, for the magic realism with natural, actually is one of my intentional to relate both of them, but it's good to hear that from you. And for the natural, is a way of storytelling that I want to mostly tell storytelling by visual, because it conveys more environments. And for the magic realism or mantra, it's something that a soldier being and do with the villager, a propagated, a propaganda or something. Yes.
Thank you. One question.
First remarks, congrats to all filmmakers. It's difficult to make a film, and it's even more difficult to exhibit. So congrats to all of you. I choose this session because of spelling test. The reason being is that I'm part of this system which in this country is called Chinese privilege. It reminds me of my difficulty in grasp the English language, which was penalized during primary school. All these years I've been thinking to myself, country first, race later, then the languages that I feel of it. I can't get into filmmaker school because I fail my English. My English was brought up through career work. So I am totally relate to this, and totally relate to my nephew and nieces who have issues grappling with Chinese, because I would say the Mandarin language now is the gateway by our government to provide for them for a better life. So my question to Tak Hon is that, what is your ardent wish, after people viewing this short film, what are the other messages you want them to bring back? Because I feel that languages is really a sentimental and yet is a touchy issue for both Singapore and Malaysia. Yeah, so thank you for that.
Wow, message. Okay, I think I can share with you a little bit my script process, I guess. When I write in the early stage of script, my initial thought was more about the education doesn't equally value every single different meanings. Let's say you are really good at something else that's not under the curriculum, you immediately not being validated whether or not you are good at something. That's my initial thought. And then after that, when going through the process of the production process, and even going through different perspectives, even when I hear the kids you know, when I hear the stories of how they've been in this system, and also hear from some of my other peers that, you know, they mentioned about, and also even Angeline Tan also have input, like, you know, she spoke on behalf of like being a teacher. I think it goes back to like Mickey's you know, like perspective being a teacher, like why the education makes them behave in this certain way. And I don't think I kind of want, like, you know, telling a message like, you know, oh, the system is bad or something. I think it's meant to be, like, you know, tracing back to Malaysian history, like that's how our education system is formed. But it's just that there are several parts of people that they find difficulties on certain aspects. And for my script is for my story is the language learning difficulties. So yeah, I kind of just like want to show this part of community that they have this issue. So I'm not trying to say that, you know, like, oh, abolish vernacular schools or whatever, you know. It's like, yeah, I just want to show what's essentially truth in Malaysian community. Yeah, hope it answers the question.
We have time for one more question, if there is any. No? Okay, then, thank you so much for being here, and sorry we didn't. Okay. Enjoy the rest of your day.